Let's be honest. Most leaders dread difficult conversations the way some people dread public speaking. Your heart rate spikes. Your brain starts rehearsing comebacks. And before you know it, you're either avoiding the talk or walking in ready to win instead of ready to listen. Maybe even fear comes into play. Not fear like in a horror movie, but fear as in an acronym. False expectations appearing real. But here's the thing. That worst case scenario you've created in your mind that has you holding back or not having the conversation, well, in my experience of having hundreds of these, the opposite is the reality. Now, I'm not saying that in hundreds of these that everyone's gone perfectly. No way. But I can count the number on one hand. It just rarely blows up into some dramatic challenge that many of us conjure up, keeps us on the sideline. In fact, what I've experienced is just the opposite. By far, most of these conversations, when approached using the methods and mindsets I've shared in the previous podcast and in my book, The Roadmap to Difficult Conversations. In fact, the opposite is true. By far, they end in a successful outcome. Many with a renewed sense of purpose or expectation and a hearty thank you. They show appreciation. Mastering difficult conversations isn't about surviving them. It's about leading them. And that's what I've been sharing with you through this series. When you do this right, you don't just solve problems. You elevate your entire culture. That's very powerful. You build trust. You sharpen accountability in the right way. And you show your people what real leadership looks like. You're setting the example, especially when pressure's on. So in today's podcast, we're wrapping up everything we've covered in the Roadmap to Difficult Conversation series. It's going to give you the greatest hits, the tools, the techniques, and the mindset shifts that transform every tough talk into a growth moment. And if you want to go even deeper, I've got 20 open-ended questions you can use to guide any difficult conversation. You'll find those in my free book, The Roadmap to Difficult Conversations, and links in the show notes. Or you can head straight to my website, rdltraining.com, and download it there. It's RomeoDeltaLimaTraining.com. So, saying all that, getting you set up, let's get into it. Step 1. Lead with curiosity, not certainty. I share in the book the intention invention. That's the first step to these going wrong if they go wrong, is you assume you understand their intention, why this happened. But the truth is you're missing almost always information. So this is where it all starts. The biggest trap in leadership conversations is walking in with a made-up mind. You've already decided why they did it, what they were thinking, and how you're going to fix them. That's not leadership. That's courtroom cross-examination. Curiosity is your superpower. Holding your opinions loosely is your superpower. Asking open-ended questions is the tool. And using the Jefferson-Fisher 3-step setup. Here's what I'd like to talk about. Here's what I'm hoping we walk away with. And it's now a good time. Hey, Randy, I'd like to talk to you about your sales results from last month. And in the end, I hope we can come away with a strategy or approach to gain you even better success. Is now a good time to talk about that? 1, 2, 3. That one move turns this potential confrontation into collaboration. You're not storming in to win the talk and set them straight. You're stepping in to understand and then guide and coach. And here's the kicker. When you lead with curiosity, you'll often find the story you built in your head was wrong to some degree. There's been times that I was completely wrong. Sometimes I was just missing key pieces of information. That's not weakness. That's leadership maturity. So step 2, mirror, validate, and guide. This is one of my favorite tools to teach, and it's pure gold in real life. It's not a script, it's a mindset. And that's probably the biggest thing you have to embrace. You have to go in with a different thought or mindset into these conversations. When you come in and someone's emotionally defensive or highly frustrated, don't push any harder. Back them. Mirror what they're saying. Reflect it back. So, Randy, it sounds like you felt left out of that decision. Or, Randy, man, it sounds like your workload's been really overwhelming. I can see how that's been frustrating. So I embrace their emotion, then I validate the feeling, not the behavior. I can see how that would be frustrating. And then finally, guide the conversation forward. All right, let's figure out what adjustments we can. So Randy, it sounds like you felt like you were left out of that decision. I can see how that could be frustrating. All right, let's figure out what adjustments we can make going forward. Boom, boom, boom. This approach, by the way, it wasn't invented by me. It's been used by FBI hostage negotiators and Fortune 500 executives alike. Why? Because it works. It disarms the emotion and opens the mind. You see, if they think they've got to fight back, that's a very different mindset on their part. And you create that mindset based on how you approach it. So you want to mirror it, embrace the emotion, acknowledge it, empathize with it, and then talk about it. And if you think this is kumbaya BS, it's not. It's leadership. And some of the most powerful leaders on the planet use this technique. You can too. Just have to practice it. Third step, stay calm or you lose control. I've said it before, the person with the most emotional control owns the room. And if you're emotionally worked up, if you lose your cool during one of these conversations, you lose the conversation. So here's the play. Lower your voice, slow your breathing, and it's okay for silence to be used as a tool. Silence isn't weakness, it's power. It makes the other person fill the space. And in that pause, it tends to allow emotions to cool. And if they're cool, you create that. If they're cool, then we can talk about a solution or a redirection. And even when they may be emotionally charged and they take a jab at you, don't fire back. Don't take that bait. Try this line again from Jefferson Fisher. Well, that felt personal. Is that how you meant it? It's calm. It's very surgical. And it forces them to rethink their tone without you engaging or escalating the fight. You're cool. Wow. That felt personal. Is that how you meant it? And remember, no one makes you mad. Nobody else pulls those strings on you. You own your emotions. You decide how to show up. You're in control. Nobody makes you do anything. You're always in control. So don't be triggered. Don't take the bait. Don't allow them to own that space. You own it. Because leaders who can stay composed under fire, they'll win every time. Step 4, fairness. Fairness isn't optional. Here's where trust is either built or broken. You can preach accountability to one person and mistakenly, maybe even unaware of giving another a pass because maybe they're your top performer and they can get away with a little bit more. People see that. They talk about that. And very often they can lose respect for you, depending on the size of it. Bottom line is, the fastest way to destroy culture, trust, respect is inconsistency. You see, fairness means everyone plays by the same rules. It's the name badge at CarMax. It's my pleasure from Chick-fil-A. Everybody plays by the same rules, especially you. It means you don't tolerate excuses just because someone's valuable, but you also don't want to point out every little stinking mistake they made. Sometimes you got to, if it's one time, let it pass. If it becomes a pattern, then you must talk about it. If it's a new person, you got to catch it early and correct it the minute you see it. But somebody who has a good track record, they're having a bad moment. However, if it turns into a pattern, you start seeing this bad behavior, this inconsistency on their part, more often, more than a couple times, you have to address it then. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you follow that rule, it means you never let poor behavior slide because confrontation feels uncomfortable. You're in control. It won't be uncomfortable if you're in control and consistent. So you must hold your team accountable across the board. You must hold yourself accountable to exactly the same standard, maybe a higher one. That's real leadership. Step 5, shift the goal from being right to getting it right. If you take nothing else away from this entire series, take this. Stop fighting to be right. It's human nature. We want to defend ourselves. We love being right. We like to prove our point. We like to show everybody our intelligence and our knowledge and how right our opinion is. Stop that. Stop fighting to be right. Start fighting to get it right. Start fighting to get it right. Winning an argument is easy. But even when you win, you lose trust. You lose respect. Your goal in all this is to win trust with the other person or persons. That's leadership. And you're not there in this conversation to prove your intelligence. You're there to create alignment. Let's all get on the same page. Let's make sure we're all rowing in the same direction. You want to build a pool of shared meaning, which is your curiosity, asking questions. Get their side of things first. Hold your opinions loosely until they either confirm or dissolve your opinion. And be prepared to have your mind changed. I can tell you this, one of my first interview questions with most people I interview, and I interview a lot of people, is give me a recent example where your mind was changed based on new information. And if I interview 50 people and ask them that same question, which they're never prepared for, 49 of those people are stumped. Now, it doesn't mean their mind can't be changed. It just means that they don't think about changing their mind on a regular basis. So when they change their mind, they don't realize it, or they're still thinking about they're right, but that person's also right. Two things can be right at the same time, but have you ever changed your mind? But if I build a pool of shared meaning, I get their side. I understand my side quite well and know where I got my opinion or thought from. But I need to consider both sides and also embrace the fact that I'm not right yet. So you want to collaborate. You want to contribute into this pool of shared meaning and walk away with clarity and buy-in. I had a conversation just this morning during a coaching call. A sales manager that had set this new expectation, a new focus for his team. And he was talking to his best salesperson. And she pushed back really hard. And for good reason. And what this sales manager missed is he wasn't listening. All he wanted was to be right and for people to say, yes, I'll do that for you. But in reality, he's working with adults. And these are strong-willed adults that they didn't understand how they were going to get the time. They were concerned about the resources. They were concerned about the impact on them and their current customers. So it's easy just to set an expectation. You have to walk through with your team in order to get buy-in and collaboration and alignment. So in this case, we need to figure out what they're not going to do in order to create the space, the time available for them to do what you're talking about. We also need to uncover what stands in their way of doing it. Are there internal functions, shortcomings that would prevent them from doing that? This sales manager only wanted to do what he wanted to do, and that's all he wanted to hear was, yes, sir. But in reality, he was very unlikely to get everybody perfectly aligned with this until he had the conversation. So our takeaway today is we've got to have a group meeting. We need to talk about this and not only set the goal, but talk about how we're going to get there. And not only how we're going to get there, but what's standing in our way. What's our bottleneck? What are your fears, sales team? False expectations appearing real is preventing you from aligning with me. But they have to go first. They have to share their concerns first. Set the goal. Here's where I want to get. Now, how are we going to get there? Listen to them first. Build that pool of shared meaning. And then you walk away with clarity and buy-in, which is what this sales manager wanted. Why? Because people fight harder for ideas they help shape. And it's such a easy thing to do, and it's so powerful. You get their opinions, you get their thoughts, you put it into the pool of shared thought, meaning, information, and then you cobble it all together. You get those opinions out there that very often someone else on the team gets to realign versus you having to tell them they're not thinking about it properly. Let your team help the rest of the team figure out how to do this or share their experiences or how to overcome that fear. So if you want commitment, what you don't want is compliance. Just doing it because I have to do it. That's not culturally positive. You want commitment. Stop delivering monologues. Get everybody's input. Build a dialogue. Start building dialogue instead of a monologue. So often when I share this concept of conversations with managers, this dialogue, I can see their wheels turning. most had this look of doubt. And I'm not sure what they're thinking. Oh, that's not going to work with this person, or that takes a lot of extra time I don't have. Or they flat out avoid having the participant or participants in the conversation because this approach is so foreign and new to them. They don't know how to do it. Well, until you practice something, you're never going to know how to do it. Here's something that's uber powerful for you, and you need to practice it, even if you get it some wrong. You're going to be more right than wrong, and you're going to learn from that. Just start doing it. And yeah, it's discomfort. And change requires discomfort. It's no different than going to the gym. There will be pain. There will be soreness, discomfort for some period of time. Then as your muscles build resilience and power, the soreness dissipates. And that workout feels like strength, not discomfort. So these conversations will feel like strength, not something to avoid. As soon as you commit to having them in the right way, start with curiosity, not with being right. Number 6, read your dashboard before you redline. What does that mean? Well, you can't control what others say. You just can't. But you can control your response. And your body tells you when you're about to lose it. So pay attention. Understand your signs, those things that you're about to take the bait, that you're being triggered. Maybe it's a tight chest, or you clench your jaw, or the room starts closing in on you. Your tone raises. You get heat in your face. You blotch up. I often say I get this little tickle in my neck. When you get that itch to interrupt, set them straight, be right. They're just wrong. I don't agree with you. You don't have to agree with them. You need to figure out why they have the thought that you don't have. You need to create some more understanding. That when you go in and you respond, you feel this thing, you continue and you raise your voice and you get into an argument, that's your ego grabbing the wheel. When you feel it coming, take a breath, hit the brakes, recognize it, call it what it is, give it a name. It's a pattern interrupt. Tell yourself, it's coming, slow down. Remind yourself, this isn't about being right. It's about being effective. So this is going to take a little time. I need to ask some questions. I need to slow the hell down. And let me figure out their side of things by asking questions. Open-ended questions. Tell me more. Share with me your experience. How often has it happened? When do you see that happening? If you can name it, slow it down, know that you need to do a pattern interrupt. Here it comes. Because you want to be effective, not right. That 1 second, it's really all it takes. That you interrupt your pattern of thought can save you from saying something that takes sometimes years to repair. I mean, it could be really bad how you respond if you allow yourself to go down your natural path, which is an imperfect path. Hard to do, but with practice, you absolutely can, and you will love the outcome. Number 7, master the redirect. Again, back to your ego. When you know your ego starts flaring up, I see it. It's game time. However, this is where the average manager loses the conversations. And great leaders shine. The redirect. And the move is simple. Pause before you respond. Just catch yourself getting into this automatic reply of being right. Pause. Ask a question or 3 or 5 or 10 instead of throwing back at them. Make sure you're mirroring their tone and body language calmly. You want to You want to set the example. They'll feed off of you. Acknowledge their view. Oh, I can see how you can feel that way. Oh, I see where you're coming from. I get it. I hear you. Even if you disagree, even if in your mind they're flat out wrong, let's let them figure out why they're wrong, not you tell them they're wrong. That's where the questions come in. But you don't know where they're wrong until you start unpacking their thoughts, opinions, experiences, and see where that's coming from. And then you can take the conversation back to the goal. Again, fairness sometimes comes into this, so let's just, for role play purposes, say, they say, well, you're being unfair. And you respond by saying, oh, okay, I can see how you might feel that way. Can you explain why you think this is unfair? And then you can look at both ways, from your side, their side, and boom, that redirected energy, you've just taken charge. You've taken charge of the emotions. You haven't fed bad emotions. You've calmed emotions. Your emotional tone and response will dictate how this comes out. Keep it cool. And that way you can keep the conversation going in a positive manner without dominating this person. You don't have to dominate. You have to guide. You have to coach. They have to make the decision to make the change. They're not going to do it just because you told them to. Number 8. I've said it several times now. It's the power of open-ended questions. Very often I establish a goal for this conversation. And I also, through the years, and I've shared those questions in the book for you, as they are responding, as I'm asking questions, I have the questions memorized to where I'm going to ask the next question. I want to guide it towards my goal. How long has that been going on? How often does that happen? What's been your experience with that? Tell me more. Share with me who told you that. Share with me what happened then. How do you feel that way? Tell me what brought you to that. Unpack their thoughts. That's a conversation. You want to avoid the lecture and have a conversation. And if you catch yourself dominating the conversation, like doing 80% of the talking, then you're losing the conversation. Back off. You want them to do the majority of the talking. And it needs to be 70, 30, 80, 20, somewhere where the other person is responding and talking based on you unpacking their thoughts and opinions and experiences with these open-ended questions. Who, what, when, where, how. Tell me more. Share with me. That's the fix. Ask better questions. To have better conversations, you have to ask better questions. They're in the book. These open-ended questions, and there's just 20. There's probably limitless how many you can ask, but 20 of my favorite are in the book. These open-ended questions are how you dig deeper, you uncover the real issue, and most of all, what you really want is, I get buy-in. I create buy-in by asking these questions. And these questions will turn problems into partnerships. Does that make your life easier or what? That we have mutual drive to do things the right way, to meet our standards, to achieve our goals. So please go to rdltraining.com, download the book, click on the link in the show notes, go get those questions. And by the way, these questions work with anyone. They can work with a direct report. They can work with a peer. They can even work with your boss. Because when your boss is coming at you with things that you disagree with or you don't understand or you don't buy in, ask them questions. They may be wrong. And I bet you if they're even somewhat effective as a boss, they'll realize it as you talk it through, talk it out. And this one approach builds trust faster than any feedback sandwich Well, that builds trust really fast. Number 9, address the behavior and set the boundary. Now, don't get it twisted. Very often, I've mentioned earlier, managers go into thinking about this as, well, this has to be kumbaya. We all have to get along. Well, it's best to get along, but I don't have to cave to anybody. I'm going to have my standards, and I'm going to get to that standard. Get you the best way to that standard. It's a collaboration, not caving. Because once you've listened, you validated their feelings and created that shared understanding, you're going to close, and you're going to close strong. And so as you're closing the conversation, it's going to sound something like, Randy, I really appreciate everything you've shared. And moving forward, I just want to be clear that the behavior we talked about and you committed to change, it won't continue. Do I have your commitment on that? That's calm authority. Modulate your tone. Modulate your volume. Don't appear angry, but don't appear passive either. Just direct and be confident. The mistake most managers make is dancing around the issue because they have to describe the issue. No, you don't. Here's the outcome. How did we get there? When you start trying to confuse yourself with why they did it, the intention invention, it's where you get all tripping over your tongue. So don't dance around the issue because you don't want to seem to be mean or picky, but clear is kind. Remember that, clear is kind. Holding back is cruel. Everyone wants to do a good job every day. And you not sharing, participating in these conversations to help them do a better job, the perfect job, meet your standards, by you holding back, that prevents them from doing and being the best they can be. And you really win when they're the best every day. Don't blame it on them, blame it on you. They're not the best because you're not the best yet. Practice this approach. You see, unclear expectations lead to resentment. Likely you're going to have an annual review with this person, and that's where you get bashed in the head. As now all of a sudden you're going to have to address it. I have run out of procrastination time. I now have to talk about the issue. But I've had 12 months to talk about the issue and I didn't do it. And now I'm blindsiding them with it. Man, is that unfair? They've had a whole year to get better. You've had a whole year to benefit from them getting better. Go ahead and have the conversation as soon as possible. Calm, cool, open-ended question, dialogue, not monologue. And when you're being direct, that builds respect. People appreciate that. When I ask people, tell me about the best boss you ever had, rarely is it the easiest boss. It's the boss that helped form them, train them, direct them, give them confidence. And they do that through coaching and talking and learning from mistakes and getting better and better. It's hard. It's hard to change a mindset. If you just tell them how to change, they're not going to change. Or they might change for 30 or 60 days. That's a sprint. This is about a marathon. Until you have that conversation the right way, you will not get the change you seek. So that part's hard, but it's effective. Way more effective than not saying anything or allowing it to go on for so long. It's now becoming an operating procedure for this person or your team. And now you've created a much more difficult hill to climb. So have the conversation. Number 10. Understand and embrace. As soon as you start practicing this, you will see that Difficult conversations are a leadership superpower. Anyone can lead when everything's running smooth. But your credibility as a leader is defined by how you show up when things get hard. And it will get hard. Sometimes it's things you can control. Sometimes it's things you're not in control of, but it's going to get hard. And you can avoid it, or you can explode, or you can engage. Those are kind of your three choices. Avoiding gets you silence and resentment. They may nod their head and say, you're right, you're right, you're right. That's just them getting away from this conversation. Exploding gets you compliance and fear because people don't want to have to experience that negative interaction again. That'll get you compliance again, maybe 30 days, 60 days. We're in a marathon here. When you engage, you get trust and long-term growth. That's the roadmap. Lead with curiosity, mirror, validate, guide with your questions. Most importantly, control your emotions and be fair. Your goal is to seek alignment and understanding, not dominance. Ask questions, set boundaries, and above all, stay calm, even when everybody else is losing their cool. It's the best way to lead. But it takes that readjustment, that pattern interrupt. Name it, see it, just that second pause. Tell yourself what new direction. Go to questions, go to curiosity. That's how you create a culture that runs on accountability, not forced accountability, or better known as compliance, not anxiety, true alignment that is aligned with your standards. So in closing, if you've been following along through this entire Roadmap to Difficult Conversation series, I'm really hoping you feel more confident walking into these talks. You should. The ones that used to make your stomach turn or you avoided like the flu. And if you've had them and they've been successful, you're starting to get the traction you're looking for. Let me hear from you. I'd love to hear your experiences on how this is working for you, how you've been using the technique. So hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm the only Vaughn Sigmund on LinkedIn. Connect with me while you're there. Please connect with me. Love to have you as part of my virtual network. I'd love to give more people the confidence you have. And you sharing your confidence, but you sharing it helps others achieve what they're looking for too from this material. So in closing, remember, leadership isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about mastering it. Because when you can handle the hard stuff with clarity and calm, people just don't respect you. They will. They'll also trust you, which is gold. That's rocket fuel. That's the difference between being a boss and being a leader. So grab my ebook. It's free. The Roadmap to Difficult Conversations on rdltraining.com, rdltraining.com. You'll find those 20 questions I spoke up earlier, and it's an infinite number. They're my 20 favorite. And while you're there, go ahead and check out some of the leadership development programs we offer. Share it with your boss. Let's get engaged. Let's get you on the program. And if you found value in this episode or any of the others, please share it. Subscribe to the podcast. I love my subscribers. Leave a review. That helps us get the message out to more leaders who want to grow, more leaders who need it. So wrapping up, this has been the Business Mechanic Show. I'm Vaughn Sigmund. And until next time, lead the conversation. Don't just survive it. Get out there and get after it.